a drug overdose. I've had my experiences with drugs. A lot of my family, everything with my family has been revolved around drugs.
Drugs have affected my life in many ways. They've got me involved with the entire foster care situation. I was born a drug and alcohol baby, like however you want to say it. With that in my system, I was born with drugs because of my mother using one during her pregnancy, and my mom was starting to live a pretty much clean life and live off of welfare and Section 8 EBT and all that other stuff. But after a while, she thought that we weren't doing as well as we could be, so she quit her job and she started going on the street and dealing drugs. And after a while, social workers and guardians ad litem started coming over to our apartment in the ghetto, Camp 4 housing, and they started coming and me and my little sister were playing outside. So I never really thought much of it. I mean, I knew something was wrong because they were wearing some really nice clothes, and those kind of people just don't come to our ghetto. So I never really realized the severity of the situation. But on January 5th, 1999, I was pulled out of school by a detective, and I was taken out of my house, and I was never to see my mom again for another maybe 6 years or so.
I'm reminded every day of how drugs can affect your life tremendously. My mom's fiance, James Kalaukawa Smith, and this bracelet is dedicated to him. He passed away in November of 2003 on an overdose of heroin, same drug that my mom is clean and sober for, recovering off of heroin. He was the only man that I really cared for, that treated her like the woman she deserved to be treated like.
A lot of my family, it was dangerous for me to be around him all the time because, they weren't sure what he was capable of, while he was high and stuff. So, a lot of my family tried to pull me away, and we always, every day it was like we were running away from everybody, and it was amazing. But at the same time, I didn't live with him. My parents divorced when I was young. I mean, I really didn't understand what high was. I thought, drinking or whatever, but I never really remember seeing him sober. I can't really remember, from sober or drunk, so I really didn't know the difference. But there was times that we were just driving in the truck at 3 in the morning, and he fell asleep at the wheel, and we almost ran into a tree. He would take me over to some really weird people's houses. I think they were his dealers' houses, but I'm not too sure. One time I went to go get a beer for him in the fridge, and this lady grabbed me by the arm and started threatening me, telling me not to drink, and it was really scary. A lot of really messed up people, but I never really understood that was dangerous. And a lot of the time my family, they would hold me back in the house and tell me, you gotta stay here, you can't go off with him, your dad's messed up, and we would just be screaming for each other, and I could hear him outside, cussing and yelling, and I just remember, screaming and punching, and I even grabbed a knife, and it was a butter knife, but I was like, let me go see my daddy, and
Yeah, drugs separated and broke my entire family. My mother was disowned by her parents. I pretty much disowned my mother, and I'm still trying to work on that relationship. And just drugs are pretty much, although drugs are bad, they made me who I am today. They made me aware of how bad drug use is and the consequences, repercussions, and effects of what they can do to your life, even if you're not using them.
I didn't really understand what was going on, and she would tell me that my daddy's not healthy and he could kill me or he could kill himself, and I would argue with her all the time, and she would just tell me, look at his arms, go look at the marks on his arms and ask him what that's from, and you tell me what he says. And I didn't understand it. I always thought the bruises and the cut marks were from work, but I just didn't know. I didn't know what was going on then, but it was hard.
My brothers and sisters, we grew up fast. You know, we're hood. We got that hood mentality. We're street. We know what it is. We know what it smells like. We know what it looks like. We know how much it is. I mean, that's part of my mentality. I know, you know, and I know that I want to be something. I want to overcome that and break the cycles of drugs, definitely, and just become better people and stop the cycle of drugs. I mean, I'm sure it's the same for y'all.
Drugs, they're not worth it, because the only thing that's promised you in life is death. And you know, you spend your entire life building up, you know, all these memories. I mean, drugs is just going to take that away from you. They're going to ruin your memories, and they're going to ruin your life. And you don't even understand that you're not just hurting yourself. You're not just taking away from yourself. You're taking away from your family, your friends, the people around you. And it's just not worth it. It really isn't.
Nothing positive ever comes from drugs. It's just, it's a plague. It really is, because if you take drugs, if you use drugs, doesn't matter what kind of drugs you use, you ruin somebody else's life, because it doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what kind of crazy, I don't know, selfish things you do, there's always going to be at least one or two people out there that love you for who you are and don't care what it is. It's called unconditional love, and you don't lose that. You just hurt the people that care about you when you take drugs. You ruin other people's lives as well as your own. And it's a really good way to show people that you don't care about you, yourself, or anybody else. It's not worth it.